definition of digital equity is, ensuring that individuals and communities have the technology capacity needed for full participation. Creating the conditions in which individuals and communities have the technology capacity needed for full participation in society and the economy. Anyone knows what that means? So really what it means is either eliminating conditions of inequities or creating conditions for opportunity for people to thrive. That's really what all of that means. And I start off with that definition because you said, tell a little bit about myself. If you would have asked me prior to coming to NTIA, was I a digital equity practitioner? Was I working in the digital equity space? And my answer to you would have been no. I am a community activist. I am a practitioner. I am about empowering my community. That is the work that I do, whether it's in education, whether it's in economics, in whatever it is, because I believe in people having the opportunity to design the lives in which they want for themselves. And it is not for us to tell them. And so in this work, I bring those same values, those same principles, because I am one of them. Right? So I'm not, someone asked me, was I from DC? I'm not from DC. I was born in Saigon, Vietnam, to a Vietnamese mother and an African-American father, and came to the States in '75. So, to a predominantly Black community, that's 3.2 square miles of poverty. So this work is ingrained in me. I was a teen mom. I was unhoused. So this work is very important. So when I'm out, and what's most important for me when I'm coming to places to visit is that I go out into the community. I want to meet the people. I want to learn about the community, because while we are so-called experts in this work, the true experts are the individuals living in our communities, because they know their circumstances better than anyone else. We just need to understand our space, hold space for them, and empower them with what they need to be successful.
Jonna, I enjoyed the conversation. What are the needs and opportunities and opportunities in the Virgin Islands for this?
Sure. Thank you for the question, and I'm happy to be starting after Angie. Just to piggyback on that, so my name is Jonna. I am the Director of Digital Equity and Inclusion. I'm housed within VINGN, where my position is for the territory. And so Angie's the big boss, and I'm the little lady for the territory, if you will. And just very quickly, I'm a native Virgin Islander. My family's from St. Croix. I grew up on St. Thomas, and my partner, who I call my patient half, is from St. John. So we are a true Virgin Islander. I moved back here 3 years ago, and I'm very excited to be in this position. When we talk about the challenges and the opportunities of the territory, moving back was definitely a culture shock. I came back, the cost of living, I know we preach to the choir, gas, cars, finding housing, finding not even affordable housing, but just an apartment, getting around, thinking about, I came back with an MPH, public health community work, where am I going? So we have a lot of challenges in the territory, but we also have a lot of opportunities. Our needs are great, but our opportunities are great. The last 2 days, Director Bennett, Angie and I have been, I took her on a whirlwind tour. We went to St. John. She said, oh, I went to the beach. I was like, no, I'm gonna take you on the road where people live. So we went down Centerline Road, we went out to Coral Bay, we went past Coral Bay, we kept going. Her service went on the British Virgin Islands, and welcome to the British Virgin Islands. She said, did we leave St. John? No, we're still on St. John. Yesterday, bless our hearts, I'm gonna embarrass the territory a little bit. We got to the airport to go to St. Croix. Packed day for St. Croix. Flights closed because of potholes on the runway. Closed. I'm like, Angie, we gotta get Angie to St. Croix. If I have to put on a surfboard, we're getting to St. Croix. So we switched to the seaplane. We got to St. Croix. She got to meet with some farmers. She got to go to Sage Farm. She got to meet at Rupert Chicken Shack, institution. I said, Angie, you want some chicken? She said, I'm from the hood. I want oxtail. We had that. We had conversations with the gentleman who's running re-entry programs for the territory. We got to see some of the INGN Superfab where the cable lines come in, community housing. So again, it was a day and a half. VI Children's Museum, of course, is where we ended to see the work that they've been doing in the community, the fantastic work. So I say all of that to say, this morning we spoke a lot about our needs, but we're very resilient. We have to be. Every year, this house of cards could fall down. Every year, we don't know. You know, we're checking NHC, National Hurricane Center, every morning between July 1st, June 1st, and November 1st. Now, I was gonna say, even now we're still checking, but our resiliency is very strong, and this grant is a blessing, sincerely. This grant is an opportunity to address some of our deepest core eroded institutions or problems or way of doing business, and I'm really, really excited about it. And just kind of to tag along very quickly behind the VE indeed. So I like to think of it as 2 points. I wish I had a quarter, I should carry one around. So one side of the coin is BEAD, it's infrastructure. So do you have access to affordable high-speed internet? That is the BEAD side of the coin, if you will. The other side of the coin is the digital equity coin. So now that you have access to affordable high-speed internet, what are you doing with it beyond Facebook, looking for a date, and shopping online, right? What are we doing beyond TikTok? We're making juices. Why are they not in Florida? We're doing things. We're making head wraps. We have new madras fabric. Why can I not buy the VI madras online? Why can I not get a bolt to my house tomorrow? So that's really the core digital equity, and I'm really thankful for the NTIA for this grant. I'm also thankful to Angie and the team. They're very community-minded. Not only they're talking about looking at programs, financial literacy, digital literacy, STEM learning, stream learning, reading, which you wouldn't even necessarily consider within the digital space, but reading, but also about preserving our culture. So that's my long speech.
I wish I got here a day earlier. This was on stage. Well, yeah, and I don't want to, and I want our colleagues from Puerto Rico also to talk. But we got a question at the break about one of the senators said she has a program with seniors in digital literacy, and her question is, is there money available? So since we're talking about DE, talk about how do you get plugged into DE at this particular moment where we are here.
Sorry, I hope you're not tired of me yet. So that is a great question. So the Digital Equity Grant, which is funding on the NTIA, is I like to say it's an unusual grant in that it's 2 distinct phases. So the short answer is get plugged in now, but here's the long answer as to how. So the first part of the phase is planning phase. So part of the visit here and the team being here is to understand, again, the unique challenges and the opportunities of Island. They wanted to understand about and not only just connectivity, but beyond that, because we know it's education, it's arts, where are arts? I mean, all of that goes into workforce development. So the first part is putting together essentially a needs assessment for the territory. What are our needs and how can technology meet those needs? So that's the first part. We are about to launch the website, which is called USVI Deals, specifically targeted at the Digital Equity Grant. So DEAL stands for Digital Equity and Learning, which is the approach that we're taking. Please check the VINGN website. We'll have some community engagements at the end of this month on all 3 islands, on St. John, on St. Croix, and St. Thomas. We've started those earlier. We're going to continue those. We need to collect data on the territory, not only about the needs, but about the digital landscape, what people are currently doing. So if you're running a digital program, please do reach out to me. I'm very accessible. I'm typically very friendly. And so please get involved in the process now. I know the irony is not lost that I'm asking you to check the internet for upcoming events, but sometimes people don't always have access to that. We are working as hard as we can to also go on radio and media. I know we're still a community that does traditional means of communication, be it print or radio. But please, the process is starting now, so please do reach out.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask Waldo Camila to respond to this, but definitely we talked a little bit about the DE. And I wanted to talk a little bit about BEAD. Jana just mentioned that BEAD is more about access to the internet, and we're a little different here. I know that we're working on our initial plans and that we're about to submit it. I know Puerto Rico has gone through that process and has already submitted. So who can speak to where Puerto Rico is and a little more about BEAD and access? So Waldo?
Yes, good morning. My My name is Wanda Acevedo. I'm in reality in charge of the infrastructure advisor for the program in Puerto Rico. It's a pleasure to be here. And like you said, we're a little bit ahead of the curve, and we are still gathering a lot of information, right? Information is key. Being in an island has its challenges. Information is not there as accessible as we would like. We know that some of those efforts are trying to get down in deep to what the people's needs are immediately, especially on the side of their knowledge, right? I think from being from the part of the infrastructure, I know that we will overcome the connectivity issue fairly quick, and I think it's gonna happen here sooner or later. The challenge is making all of our users knowledgeable enough to maximize this great opportunity. And that's really going back to your example of your point. The connectivity, the one that's on my side, the infrastructure, that's an easy one. Sooner or later, we will have fiber in each home or connected one way or another. Having all of our users knowledgeable enough to maximize this great tool from a worldwide tool perspective, which levels the island, any of the islands, at any state or country, it's what the key factor here. And I think you guys understand it, and we all agree that we want to head that direction.
Yes. Hi. Hello, everybody. My name is Camila Calderon. I'm the outreach manager of the Puerto Rico Broadband program. And before we in our program in Puerto Rico get to Waldo's side, basically, in infrastructure, we had to do a lot of assessment on the outreach part. So we had to do offline, right? A lot of offline reach to all the unserved and underserved communities. We had to do a lot of surveys, visiting person, listening sessions. We had to go to events in different communities to understand what was happening, because it's great for us as a program to know things that we would like to do, because we think, or we kind of understand as a government what are the needs in our country. But when we go there and we went to the communities and we talk to people, then more things keep appearing. Connectivity is for everybody, but we have to focus sometimes in covered populations that are more impacted, that get impacted more on the not being able to have this connection where they live. So we had to have these discussions with older adults. Our population in Puerto Rico is more than 60% older adults. Also, different households below the level of poverty that most Puerto Ricans are in that. We're all considered minorities, but we do have had meetings with different ethnic groups inside of the island, disabilities. So taking all these different covered populations in consideration have been quite important for us to understand how to prioritize the different programs that we're going to be putting under the Puerto Rico Broadband program. So the digital literacy programs are going to be essential for to maximize all connectivity infrastructure opportunities that the island is going to have because of the older adult population. So we've met with different organizations to understand where they are and what are their needs and where they are. So we also are thinking of working too on the device program, like here in San Thomas. And like you mentioned, we're a little ahead on some of the submissions, but they're almost a live document, because we're going to keep adding and understanding more how it's going to be the process for us. So we're glad here, and we're more than happy to keep helping the islands on their way.
So one of the things that I recognize is that community input in the DE and the D process is very important. But Dr. Gant, John,
yes.
How do we personalize that to the U.S. Virgin Islands? The input that we gather and the plans that we make, how do we personalize the plan and the input?
Yeah, I think that's the most important question. So let me tell you a little bit more about my own prior experience. So as I grew up, my dad had multiple sclerosis, and as that progressed, you would see that he couldn't use his hands as much and so forth. And he was a chemist. He went to an HBCU and was a chemist, but the computer became his hands. And I could see that what was powerful about it, that he could customize his life by using the computer and tailoring how it helped them. And what was important for him the most thing was having that voice and to shape how he wanted to do things to live his life. It's also very true when and my mission in my life is really to help people be able to take the power of computers and to use it to empower their life and their communities. I founded the Center for Digital Inclusion at the University of Illinois, and we built a gig fiber network that connected folks who were on the other side of the digital divide in the university town for the first time at the fastest network in the country. And in there, we did it with an approach where we made the voice of the folks we were serving the key voice for driving the build out of this network. We made sure that the folks that were being served by the network were actually designing and building the network. We hired folks from the community to come and help deploy the fiber. We spun off a couple different companies that were in the deployment side. We spun off an internet service provider because it was an open access network. But we did it in a way where we bring the voice. So just as we were talking about in Puerto Rico, going out from neighborhood to neighborhood, community groups, talking with folks, that's all not just listening, but it's also an open invitation to say, hey, come, please join me part of this. So that's a big part of why we are here and we're spending the time, is to really help provide that assistance so that we can figure out ways to bring the voice of folks that we're trying to serve to be part of shaping this. These ideas of what the new companies could look like, or what the internet service should look like. Or should we fine-tune Alexis so that it can handle Alexa, right? Right. I mean, we laughed at the break because we had the same thing in my family, right? Where my family, has a southern accent, and Alexa just didn't answer. Just couldn't answer, right? But can we tailor? It's just software. It's just software. It's like, like I say, it's the pot, the potter and the clay, right? And the same thing with computer. You can shape that how you want, but it's always a question about who's in charge of the build out and who's in control of shaping it. And I want to say the computer folks need to get out of the way and allow folks who are using it to have that voice and to be part of it. So I think the more that you do these kinds of things, as you're going out to communities, to be able to do that as well. Yeah.
Yes, I would add to that also that it's also important to communicate with different organizations that might be in your island to see what are they doing, who are they reaching to, because they can partner. They can be part of the stakeholder groups too that will help maximize the opportunities or the scale of the programs too.
Yep.
I guess I'll just add to both. When we talk about voices, it's, I always encourage states and territories as well as you're developing these plans, your culture makes up who you are. And so ensuring that these plans are not sterile, because everyone can talk about a digital literacy program, but is it culturally responsive to the community in which you are serving? So if I read a plan, and it's a plan that I can pick up and stick and place in every single state, then it's really not your digital equity plan. It's really not your BEAD plan. So when we're reading, we should feel and experience the culture and the people coming off of the pages. We should know about the different characters of the estates, correct? Right? So here you call them estates. Back in the Ohio where I'm from, we may say cities or whatever, but whatever it is, it would refer to who you are as a people, and that's why it was so important to me at the time. I wanted to understand, how do the people of the Virgin Islands identify themselves, and recognizing that on the different islands and in the different estates, people have different identities, and making sure that we celebrate and acknowledge that, and then be willing to be courageous to go back into our history. We can't just implement an activity. We have to identify what are the root causes that brought us to this place, and then how through this initiative do we start to address those root causes that has resulted in these systemic inequities. Because if we just have a simple digital literacy training, digital literacy program, or a device, and we didn't look at why are these conditions existing, then we have not truly solved any issues. We've just put another Band-Aid that will eventually fall off, and we will be in the same position we were before.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. I think I have a specific question for Virgin Islands. Tell us how you actually are engaging with the community to be able to gather their insight and to be able to include them in this one.
That's a great question. So I joined in July to the INGN, and right when I joined, we held a series of town hall meetings back in July, one on each island, to start getting some of this information. One of the things we immediately realized is that, as you so aptly asked at the beginning of the session, was we needed to unpack the word digital. We needed to unpack digital equity, and even beyond that, we needed to unpack digital. So we were going out into the community. We kind of made an oopsie. We were going out into the community, and we hadn't really defined the terms. And so we had some engagements, and we got a lot of feedback. Is what does this even mean? You know, what does this mean? So we kind of went back and then followed up with some of the organizations that immediately participated that reached out to us, and kind of regain planned. We've been reaching out to organizations specifically. People have also been reaching out to us. It's kind of been what researchers call a snowball technique. So as I speak to people, as the team speaks to people, goes, who else should we be talking to? And they'll give us 3 or 4 names, and then we talk to them, and who else should we be talking to? One of the things, I'm not sure if it came up in the previous session, so even within this grant, there are what's called covered populations. So there are specific populations that have been traditionally underserved or unserved that the NTIA or the Internet for All program would like the grants in the different territories and states to specifically focus. So in particular, I've been reaching out, people living with disabilities is one of those covered populations. So talking to the Disability Rights Coalition, talking to the different groups working within that spaces, talking to, again, we're considered rural, so talking to different organizations within that. As I mentioned, we've also been encouraging people to reach out to us. We still have quite a lot of work to do. We are a small but mighty team. But again, anyone who will talk to us, we're willing to listen.
And that's the question that I have next. You've been having good response.
Absolutely.
And have you been having good responses from people who aren't using?
That's a great question. So a 2-part question. I will say quite frankly that the organizations we've had conversations with, they very much either get it and see the opportunity or they don't. So this process is a slow process because you have to also take the time to bring the organizations and the individuals who don't understand that this is an opportunity up to speed to the ones that do. So the ones that get it are already thinking about what kind of programs they want to do. The other ones are kind of saying, okay, well, let me figure out my needs first and then figure out other things. So it's been a little slow. We also have a survey, that we just got online thanks to the IT team. So we'll be sending that out, and that's to get a sense of how comfortable are Virgin Islanders using the internet beyond social media. How much are people paying? Is their internet adequate? Do they have enough devices? That's something that came up during the pandemic. Is you have 4 kids at home and you only have 1 tablet and 1 laptop. Well, somebody's not working or someone's not going to school. So our devices need, so we're simultaneously launching a lot of things. So there's a survey, there's direct interaction, and there's communication. I guess that's the long and short of it.
Thank you. I'm going to do a time check very quickly. You good? Okay. So what are some, I'll start at the end, Camila. What are some calls to actions, and it'll be for everyone. What are some calls to actions for the community to be able to express their needs? Or also, what are some call to actions for digital equity and access?
For our communities, we've done surveys before getting to communities to see everything together. We also reached out to not only community leaders organizations to have to know the overall, because in Puerto Rico there's an organization that leads the community leaders, and we have more than 1,000 community leaders, and we met with them, and then we went to an event, and then there we had a booth, so they could connect with us and understand the plan, and have them a survey specialized for community leaders to understand if they know what we're talking about, if they're interested of having connectivity and express our program with their communities. And then we had a lot of our meetings for them to train them also. So with communities, we've been at events and invite them to have these trainings, especially in the things that were more accessible right now. That was ACP also because that's there. But we're in the process of having them and inviting them by this organization because they have the connection with the community leaders right now. Also, we've had the surveys, we've had the presence at events, we've had the what? Yes, Broadband. So another way that we connected with people, we created the Puerto Rico Broadband Summit, and we had a summit where we integrated all of what could be our stakeholders to present them the program and see where we were. And then we have a more broad expansion of what we were going to be doing and understanding their groups and their populations to expand more in the communities too. Something that worked was what you were mentioning. Apart from meeting, we met also with each municipality. In Puerto Rico, we have 78 municipalities. With 78, we met with their mayors in each of them to understand what events were they having culturally, what are the events on the year that they're having, what are the areas where they have no connectivity, what what type of population was specialized there, if there's any people with disabilities. Or they know because they understand which community leaders are the more important in their town, so we can have their names and meet with them directly. So we reached out them that way. We should reach everybody. We talked to the program. Then, like you, as a snowball effect, start getting more information and more contacts. So we match all the information of the stakeholders, the mayors, the community, what we know as a research, the census. So it would make more sense where we could start to do the infrastructure or all these digital equity programs, because we know that digital equity is basically the goal, but that process of the work that we need to be doing, we start reaching out for them to get more some of it.
Angie, what have you been seeing in the States? What actions or call to action should the stakeholders in this community have? Yes.
Okay. So a couple things. First, y'all need to connect with Jana. That's number one, right? So Jana's leading the digital equity efforts. And then Jennifer, the commissioner's leading the BEAD efforts, which both are integrated and will be working closely together, and both necessitates the voices of the people to be involved in the planning process. So, the two beautiful ladies in the heat. That is how, so you need to connect with them. The second thing is, whether you're with an organization or a state agency, you have data. You have two things. You have data and you have access to the people that you're serving. So both the commissioner and Jana have to conduct needs assessment, and we're doing asset inventories because one, as we're trying to figure out the needs, we also need to know what existing assets and resources are in place. So we're not duplicating. We're coming out of our silos and we're working together. You know, as I would say, everybody's gonna ante up their resources, right? And we're just gonna all put it on the table and see who's not being met and how we can leverage all of our resources. So, and we need to have data, because we know that on the islands, the census data doesn't collect and reflect everything. We know that our digital equity population viewer that the states are relying do not reflect the territories. That is just real talk, right? So we need everyone to come together and put everything on the table and work together. The third thing I would say is extend grace. Extend grace. This work is hard. This work is messy. Like Waldo said, you can build out, you have enough money, you can build out the infrastructure. That's the easy part. But when we're talking about going into communities and serving people, that is not easy. And the best well-laid plans will fail. If we know I don't care how well you plan, I don't care how well you strategize, until we go out to implement it, we are not going to know exactly for sure if this is going to work. And so we have to just extend each other grace and know that mistakes will be made. Mad respect that you guys pivoted. You went out, you started one way, you say, hey, this isn't working. We need to pivot. And that's what we have to do. And as people are pivoting, just extending that grace and saying, hey, you know, I know it's not on purpose, but you know, when y'all did such and such, you offended X, Y, Z. You know, Auntie was not happy how you came into the community and you didn't go and talk to her first. Because that's right, that's real talk. So those would be my 3 things that I would recommend.
So in addition to these two, let me give another tact: information literacy. The fact is, what's the purpose for all of this? The purpose is to empower us to go out and do things, to go out, whatever it is our choice in life to do. And it requires the right kind of understanding of not only access to the devices, understanding of the technology, but also understanding all the stuff that we're looking at to understand, is it legitimate? Is it real information? Is it culturally relevant? And help make it culturally relevant. So in addition to these things, it's also important to figure out, what do folks need to learn in all these types of programs as well. And I think a good place to partner with that, of course, is our universities. And I'm looking back at our friends from UVI. She happens to have a master's degree in library science, where they preach and teach about information literacy. Universities, your colleges, any other anchor institutions can be great places to identify what people should learn. I'm going to give you one other thing to do too. When you're working with the schools, ask the schools, what do parents need to know and students need to know to be able to use the systems? Healthcare, what do you need to know? And turn those into what you're learning as part of this, and make sure it's culturally relevant, accessible for everybody to be able to do those kinds of things to really enhance the information literacy on the island.
Well, no, I'll skip over to you and then I'll finish with Jana. But do you have anything that you would like to add to that?
One thing that Camila very much covered earlier, we did the Digital Equity Advisory Subcommittee. That's a huge, basically a big group of stakeholders. And we did see the effect of it, as you said, it snowballed. We got a lot of requests and the word spread out fairly quickly, so I could definitely recommend that. The reality too, going back to connectivity, doing the surveys, and we personally did some of the surveys with attending and serving some of the activities we've done in different municipios. Teaching the basic is one thing. People believe that they have internet because they have a phone. No, this is not target to that. You want real high-speed internet, quality of internet, and also be able to do the 3 basic things. It's not streaming, watching movies. It's basically being able to do your telehealth, telestudies, and telemedicine, and telework, right? And that's how you open that door of opportunity and equality to everyone. So once you got that overcome, we're all there. That's
Thank you for that. Any calls to actions?
Yeah, to reiterate what my colleagues up there said, absolutely, please engage, please reach out. We have a survey, we will be sending that out. We have been at community events. You will see us around Carnival. We won't be the ones with the rum and coke, we'll be the ones with the surveys or talking to people. And all okay, yeah, I know, we're the ones in the shirts and the lanyards, and we don't look like we're having fun. But we're good. And I just That's true. And I also just wanted to note, Director Ross, to your question about responses, saying I don't have the internet or the internet isn't for me is a response, and we do get that too. And that is a valid. There are no wrong responses. It's not about being positive or happy or saying the internet doesn't suit me. Well, the next question is why? Like, why do you think? What can you not do? Where's the barrier? So we just as much need to know that as we need to know people. Yeah, I'm great. So that is also a response that we need to
I think that's an important part to play. I mean, we always talk about the people who respond, but the people who walk away from the survey is the more important person to get their information. We have about 1 minute, and we wanted to open it up for questions to anyone. So I think we could take one question and one answer. Anyone has a burning question that they'd like to ask? Sure.
Good morning, everyone. Can you talk a little bit about how when you perform your community outreach, you're ensuring that the materials or the message are geared towards persons who are hearing impaired, visually impaired, or have low literacy levels?
That is a fantastic, we have not been good at that. Oh, I'm sorry, to repeat the question was how are we making sure our materials are completely accessible? So accessible, if English, to add on to what you're saying, if English is not your first language or not your comfortable language, we have a large Creole speaking population, Spanish speaking population. If you cannot hear, if you're not literate, you're absolutely right. We are doing our best to bring on ASL, to also have our resources signed, to have everything translated. That is a part of the grant stipulation. And so you're absolutely right, we have not been great at that and we are working on it. Yeah. We didn't have it today. We gotta do better, you're right.
For the Spanish, just ask your neighbor.
I could add,
We got one
on our end in Puerto Rico, we present to our digital equity subcommittee. We present whatever campaign or what marketing material we're going to be doing. We present them, and because we have members of each covered population in it, we try to make sure that we comply or we have whatever they need. And we are in the process of developing imagery and materials that are especially focused to all of them. And older adults ask, please, can you put the letters bigger? You know, so we have to change some things, but at least the website, we make sure with with PITS, our other agency, to make it accessible. But we are aware that we will have to be doing any video and specialized ASL. We met with the organizations too to try to make the best of it and make it the most inclusive possible.
And just from NTIA, I will just be honest, we are trying to do better. We have not been inclusive even as we discuss and roll out the digital equity program. So we just recently had an audit of even our color palette in our materials because of the visibility issues with that. And so we are also doing our own internal auditing of our own practices so that we can do better.
Thank you for those responses. I'm sure our community here is happy to hear that it's work in progress and that their needs are at the forefront. So thank you for that.
I'd like to thank the panel for hanging out with me at the beach. The cocktails are in the back. Thank you.